The Christian and Good Divorce and Legal Separation. Chapter 1. The Christian Divorce. Christians and Divorce. It was also said, anyone who divorces his wife must give her a written notice of divorce. But now I tell you, if a man divorces his wife for any cause other than her unfaithfulness, then he is guilty of making her commit adultery if she marries again, and the man who marries her commits adultery too. Matthew 5:31-32. No human must separate what God has joined together. Matthew 19:6. Any man who divorces his wife for any cause other than her unfaithfulness, commits adultery if he marries some other woman. Matthew 19:9. Other passages that deal with divorce are Mark 10:11-12 and Luke 16:18. Divorce for Christians is the same as for everyone: loneliness, bitterness, and legalese. John the Baptist lost his head because he spoke up about Herod's wrong move to take his brother's sister as his wife. Then his new stepdaughter asked for John's head on a platter, which was promptly delivered. Some Christians say divorce is a failure of the union created under God, but others say that some unions weren't blessed by God and not meant to be, so if one is being a jerk like beating the wife or controlling her, the wife doesn't have to sit there, take it and simply try to be a good wife. She has the right to leave and find a loving man. Clergy is stuck between a rock and a hard place because they know that much of their parish has been divorced or are contemplating it, so it's very difficult to preach about the sanctity of marriage with the high divorce rate and the inherent unfairness of having somebody stay with a deadhead spouse just because it's God's law and supposedly a sin to divorce except for infidelity or spousal abuse, so irreconcilable differences don't cut it in with God's court. A Christian preacher I saw said, if you're getting divorced, increase religious activity. Talk to a religious priest or elder, go to church, join a church group, read some Christian books, family.org, take time to heal, don't do the rebound, listen to God, don't get bitter, be open to finding the right partner in time, and most importantly, restore yourself. Divorce is most certainly about loss, anger, and frustration as people try to cope with what is often one of the most painful parts of their lives. There's a spiritual and practical aspect to it. You have to get your head in gear but also take care of regular everyday business, especially if you have kids. The most common symptoms of divorce are anger, depression, trying to cope with new child custody arrangements, and lack of money, since everybody loses out money-wise in a divorce. The first focus has to be practical matters. You can't let yourself go in facing the daily demands of life like work, or for some who don't work, like a mother, getting out of bed in the morning to do something inspired with your life. After that, you have to let go of the anger by forgiving your ex-spouse in your soul, so says a Catholic pastor running a divorce workshop. He says anger ends up hurting the person who feels it more than the target of it. He says go back to your faith to help you heal. A divorce support group made up of a close-knit group of people who have gone through the same thing, namely a kind of painful betrayal, is good to talk about things from finances to new relationships and keep it all in context with the Bible. Christ teaches us to forgive everybody, even bad people, so you should forgive because in the end, it helps to heal you. If you don't, then your ex-spouse will always have control over you. Budget your money. Avoid impulse purchases and emotional spending to try to make yourself feel better. It's a cheap trick and doesn't really solve your problems. It just gets you deeper in debt. Rushing into new relationships is also dangerous. The general rule of thumb is that for every year of a relationship, give yourself at least a month of healing before you get involved again. When you're on the rebound after a breakup, you tend to have raw, unrealistic emotions and skewed judgment. You can get very involved with somebody for the wrong reasons, who's not right for you. It could be for the attention or sex and not for love. Don't date until the divorce is final. It might stop a possible reconciliation, but even if not, it's too early anyway. For the friends and relatives of divorcees, don't judge them. Help them. Christian books about divorce are at #242.6433 or BL625.9 at the library. Catholic Divorce Info. The Roman Catholic sacrament of marriage is grounded in permanent commitment. If a couple wishes to enter into a true Christian union, they must intend to commit themselves to each other for life. The Catholic Church strives to help couples marry well and to prevent divorce. Many couples marry unwisely, even Catholic couples who have taken the mandatory Catholic premarital program. If a Catholic marriage breaks down for one reason or another, the Church has a process for releasing couples from thy marital vows by the process of annulment. An annulment is a decree that judges that never was a genuine Christian marriage in the first place. It is a decision made by the Church after at least one member of the couple has petitioned it to dissolve the marriage because of one circumstance or another. The legitimate justifications for annulment are loosely classified as the following: addiction to something, adultery, emotional illness, immaturity, mental problem, violence. The process of getting an annulment starts at the local parish level. You go in and explain the situation, either alone or with your spouse. The priest or other clergy interview both parties to the marriage. It generally takes up to 18 months to process the case. There is no official charge, but it is generally expected that you donate a few $100s for services rendered. Go to your parish priest. He will set up a church court called a marriage tribunal who will discuss your divorce and possibly ask for friends and relatives to speak on your behalf. Your ex-spouse will be contacted and invited to attend. The general gist of it is to paint a picture that your ex-spouse was the bad seed, not you, such as in cases of domestic violence, alcoholism, inability to support the family, etc. The tribunal then retreats, deliberates, and makes a decision. If you don't like it, you can appeal several more times, taking your case to Rome if need be. This process could take anywhere from 3 months to several years. The Catholic Church recognizes two aspects of marriage: civil, religious. Before you get an annulment, the rule is that you have to get a civil divorce first. This will enable you to remarry in the Catholic Church. The annulment is resolved by the church court or a marriage tribunal. When you are granted an annulment, it doesn't make the children illegitimate. These matters are regulated by the civil courts. Many Catholics often get a civil divorce and do not get an annulment either because they are afraid or ignorant of the process. The Church itself does not grant annulments in all cases. Their standard is that they will grant annulments to marriages that were flawed from the beginning for whatever reason, but if a couple has an apparently strong marriage for several years or more then want an annulment, the frowns on good marriages gone bad as the basis of an annulment. The one advantage of an annulment is that it allows a Catholic to remarry within the Church. Without it, a divorced Catholic cannot remarry in the Church. The Church prohibits a second marriage without an annulment. They want couples in troubled marriages to try to resolve their marital problems. There are many Roman Catholics who divorce and marry a second time outside the Catholic Church. The Church accepts this. After all, there's nothing they can do except possibly lose the parishioner if they criticize him or her, so they ignore it. There's no talk of excommunication to a second marriage without annulment as there was before 1977. In 1981, Pope John Paul II, in a letter on family life, stated that those who remarry without church approval remain full members of the Catholic Church. Before these times, such people were excommunicated. The Catholic Church continues to help divorcing Catholics and make life easier for them within the Church. Annulments are now easier to get. The Church wants to keep its members and not alienate them. Some churches have special counseling services for parishioners who want to remarry after an annulment. North American Conference of Separated and Divorced Catholics, 1100 South Goodman Street, Rochester, New York, 14620. 716-271-1320. North American Conference of Separated and Divorced Catholics, 80 St. Mary's, Dr. Cranston, Rhode Island, 02920. 401-943-7903. Christian divorce websites: christiandirectory.info, evangelicaloutreach.org/divorce.htm. Angelfire.com/law3/CDR, Christian Divorce Recovery Program. Angelfire.com/OK/Bible teaching/divorce.html. Bluepages.com, Christian Divorce Attorneys. carm.org/question/divorce.htm. groups.yahoo.com/group/divorce_recovery. christianityvice.net/christian_divorce.htm. christiananswers.net. christiandivorce.net. christianforums.net. christianitytoday.com. christiansonline.com.au. christiansupport.org. ctlibrary.com. divorcehope.com. divorcehope.com/christiandivorcecounseling.htm. divorcehope.com/christiandivorcefacts.htm. divorcesource.com. fmh-child.org/divorce.html. frankka.com/divorce.html. freshestartseminars.org. family.org/married/topics/0025105.cfm. marriagedevorce.com. onlinelegalcenter.com, get legal advice on Christian divorce. picketfences.org, divorce recovery. preventingdivorce.com. rejoiceministries.org/contacts.html. religioustolerance.org/chr_devo.htm. sowingzedsoftfaith.com/divorce1.htm. stepfamily.asn.au/seek/divorce/christian_divorce. stopdivorce.org. truthcast.com/agape/000630 Christian_divorce. wayoflife.org/fbns/divorces.htm. you-can-stop-your-divorce.com. whyutopian.com/religion/theology/divorce.html. divorceform.org. American Association of Christian Counselors. 800-526-8673. aacc.net. Counseling for Divorce. American Association of Pastoral Counselors. 9504 A Lee Highway, Fairfax, Virginia 22031-2303. 703-385-6967. Fax 703-352-7725. info@aapc.org. aapc.org. Worldwide Christian Divorced Fathers. 1429 Columbia Drive Northeast, Albuquerque, New Mexico 87106-2632. 800 My Daddy. Some Christian divorce websites from blog.feedspot.com/Christian_divorce_blogs. AfterDivorceMinistries.com/blog. DivorcedGirlSmiling.com. DivorceMinister.com/n. GaryThomas.com/divorce. MidlifeDivorceRecovery.com/Susie's-blog. SinceMyDivorce.com. SurvivingTheHepain-of-Divorce.blogspot.com. blog.feedspot.com/UK_divorce_blogs. blog.feedspot.com/divorce_podcasts. blog.feedspot.com/divorce_YouTube_channels. feedspot.com/news/Christian_divorce. Chapter 2. Separation is a test for divorce. Legal separation/marital separation. A legal separation gives the man time to hide his money. An alternative to an outright divorce if you're having problems is simply for one to move out for a while to give each a chance to reevaluate their lives and the situation to see if you really want divorce or if you want to give it another shot, reconcile as they say. It could be the first step in a divorce where you legally establish a separation date to satisfy any laws about being separate for a year or so before you can start divorce proceedings. To get a legal separation, file the motion through family court. To separate without a legal separation document, move into separate residences, then file for divorce simply to get the paperwork started and set a definite separate date to satisfy the court of any time that the couple must be separated before a divorce is granted. Courts have forms which you can file to get a legal separation decree, which starts with a lawsuit in court, but less and less people are using them and proceeding straight to divorce. If you plan to separate either as a precursor to divorce or not, a separation agreement is good because you can set up such matters as support, child custody, visitation, etc. In the interim, before you decide what to do, either stay married or divorce. A legal separation from court is good for several other things, like it sets the date of separation for any possible waiting period for a divorce, releases you from your spouse's debts after that date, limits your liability in alimony and child support to your pay scale on that date, not any raises you might get after, and limits the liability of how you share retirement benefits. So the sooner you get a legal piece of paper saying you're separated, the better off it is for you. Get a legal separation if you're uncertain about a divorce. Bypass this and start divorce proceedings immediately. One guy wanted to separate quickly because he knew that in 1 month, he would be getting a generous stock option plan which he didn't want to share with his wife, but his wife smartly hired a private investigator to investigate his money status at work, found about this, told her to wait until after he got this package to start separation proceedings, which she did, with the end result being she got to share in his stock options. Some people want to stay married and live apart permanently, in which case you should get a legal separation, which is a written contract like a prenuptial agreement to resolve several issues like property rights, child custody, spousal support, and the estate. If you choose to separate for a reasonable period of time, you should file for separation in court. Usually, there has to be grounds for separation. Quite often, it's a game or a ploy one side uses to either get a divorce, get support payments, or scare the other into realizing he didn't know what he had till it was gone. Most separations these days aren't filed in court, the husband or wife just leaves and the marriage may float around in limbo for a while. Talk it out beforehand. Say that you want to move out for a bit so that you can each think it through, then make a date for a month or two down the line where you can reassess the situation and decide whether you either need more time alone to think it out, move back in with new rules and a new understanding. It's over, divorce amicably. It's over, nasty divorce war. Some people say separation strengthens the marriage, others find that they want a divorce. Many married people choose to separate for any of a number of reasons, like to cool off a bad time, recenter themselves to determine what they really want, for convenience and lifestyle, as a precursor to divorce, or simply because they don't want to be married anymore and this is how they terminate it. Many people who separate don't realize they're still legally bound, so if they marry another, they're violating the law of bigamy, being married to two people at the same time. So if they die even 20 to 30 years later, the first spouse they left behind still has first rights to their estate. Some people stay married but choose to live apart in separate residences and perhaps do things together on the weekends with the kids. It might be a feasible alternative to outright divorce. Consider it if you have doubts about an outright divorce. If you separate, keep it temporary and resolve the issue permanently one way or another, either move back or get a divorce. Many low-class people separate not realizing they're still married or simply too poor to afford a legal divorce. If you don't own much anyway, when you die there's nothing much there for your original wife, even if you left her 30 years ago, which is what some people do. Quite a lot of poor people simply leave their spouses and get married to someone else without a divorce. If there's no cross-checking of county records, nobody squeals, or you get married in another county, nobody will ever know, but anyone can call the cops and get you arrested for bigamy. When you start talking insurance, taxes, credit, etc., it's best to keep it all straight and legalations. If you separate and plan it to be permanent, it's best to get a legal divorce because the other party, if still married even though separated, has major rights to your estate should you die, and if you have kids or another girlfriend or even a new wife bigamy style, it will be hell in court. If you separate and date your husband again, This sets the date of separation up to that date and could be bad if there's a waiting period of a year of separation before a divorce can be granted. Even though you're still legally bound to support each other financially during a separation, expect less support than before. If your husband doesn't want a separation or divorce and you do, don't move out of the house until you get either a separation agreement or file divorce papers, otherwise that could be used against you in a fault divorce as abandonment. After a separation, cancel all joint accounts, contact a lawyer, open a new account for yourself, get all your paperwork in order, talk to a tax man to determine whether you will file separately or jointly, determine your assets as a couple and start to set up some kind of equitable disbursement of assets between the two of you. Marital separation websites. womensdivorce.com/marital-separation.html. self-counsel.com, book on separation. Canadian separation info. You can informally separate by leaving, then deciding whether to get a divorce. With a legal separation, fill out a legal separation agreement either with or without a lawyer and both sign it. The more you do for yourself as an intelligent couple agreeing to split, the less hassle it is in court and the less you pay lawyers. If you're honest, tell your spouse exactly how much money you have and agree to split it equitably. That's most of the legal problem solved. If you want to fight over the money, child custody, etc., it's considered adversarial. You do it all in court. Most people don't want a long legal fight. You can avoid by giving up a bit of power and being friendly. When lawyers get involved, they end up taking part of the money in your combined assets pool. If the possibility of violence is involved and he assaults you, you can have him arrested and finish the legal proceedings while he is in jail. All the legal stuff comes down to assets and honesty with disclosure of assets. If you each don't have much, it's easy. If you have a moderate amount of assets, the best course of action, if possible, is to sit down together and disperse them among yourselves without any legal intervention. The family home and the family business could be the source of a big fight. The husband often gives the wife the house. If she can't meet monthly mortgage payments plus the maintenance bills, she should sell it right away for whatever she can get for built-up equity minus what's owed in the mortgage. The husband often gives the wife X number of dollars for what she's entitled to of the business asset. Negotiation can be a bitch. Don't bitch over kitchenware and stuff like that. You can buy a bunch of kitchen stuff at a dollar store for $100 or so. Give the pet to the one who spends the most time at home. Don't blame each other. Just hammer out an agreement, then both sign it in the presence of two witnesses who sign too. Update the agreement if necessary. Change your will. There are hundreds of books and websites that try to help you in coping and support during separation and divorce. Canadian law books are at #349.71 or K447 at the library. Books on Canadian separation are at #346.710, legal, or HQ838 and #306.89, general advice. Separation.ca. Legalseparation.ca. CBA.org, Canadian Bar Association, has free info on it. cdnq.org/n/legalinformation/depliance/amicable separation, Quebec. child.gov.ab.ca, support for families parenting after separation workshops, in Alberta. self-counsel.com, book on separation. Marital separation agreement info. A general separation agreement is different from a legal separation agreement. It doesn't go to court, it's just an agreement done between two parties with their lawyers where both sides write out their parameters of the relationship, kind of like the prelude to a divorce or the first stage of a divorce, saying what they want, what they don't want, etc. It's just like a mini divorce. Each side should get their own lawyer to hammer it out so it stays fair on both sides. They basically divide the assets, child custody issues, pet ownership, legal obligations to each other, support payments, taxes, etc. It's like either a temporary divorce or the first step to your divorce, keeping a slim hope in there that you will get back together again. The more legal and complete, the more likely a judge will honor it in court. Don't do it yourself. Get a lawyer or a paralegal to draft it up. Don't pussyfoot with separations. If it's dead, kill it. Get the divorce straight up. Legally speaking, a legal separation agreement is a document that marks the end of the relationship and the beginning of divorce proceedings. It specifies the legal rights and obligations that the two people will agree to and hopefully honor. An SA is especially difficult where children are concerned. Couples who have never married and same-sex couples may also draw up a separation agreement. Once a couple has agreed to split, the separation agreement should be written as soon as possible, even before the actual separation if possible. If you can both agree, the agreement should be drawn up by both lawyers. The two should have separate lawyers since they have different interests. The two players should decide amongst themselves such matters as custody of children, child support, visitation rights, arrangements for a non-custodial parent to see a child. The arrangements should be as specific as possible, including everything from travel costs to vacation expenses, alimony, maintenance, or spousal support, payments to provide for the continuing support of a spouse, usually for a limited period of time, 5-year max. Division of marital property, and equitable distribution of marital assets between the couple, taking into account what each came in with and what they contributed during the relationship. Some factors to consider are the length of the marriage, the number of children, special needs of the children, if any, the employment prospects of a non-employed spouse, the needs of the children, and sometimes questions of fault. Child care costs, where the custodial parent is a working parent, since child care costs may not be covered by child support payments. Education costs, especially the cost of a college education. Health care costs, including health insurance coverage and also routine medical care like eye exams, glasses, dental work, etc. Life insurance to provide for the children in case of the death of a parent. Family debts, who shall be responsible for which debts. Income tax deduction, who will take a deduction for the children as dependents. Attorney fees, who shall pay for them. Mutual waiver of inheritance and GHTS. Provisions in case of reconciliation. Both parties should also sign a statement that they understand the agreement and are not under duress and sign it. Legal separation forms. Allah.com/form/family/separation_agreement. articleinsider.com/legal/legal-information/free-marital-separation-agreement-forms. asaplegalforms.com. canadalegal.com/form/separation-agreement.asp. candivorce.ca/separation.html. divorce.love2know.com/free_legal_separation_forms. divorceforms-usa.com. divorceformz.com. divorcetoday.com. docsdoc.com/docs/472154666/legal-separation-agreement-form. docs.doc/4753970/free-legal-separation-agreement-form-nc. ehow.com. Forms for legal separation. ehow.com/fax_7656936_form-separation-agreement.html. family.findlaw.com/divorce-form/le22_3_1.html. findforms.com/search.php?q=separation. findforms.com/search.php?q=separation plus sign agreement. findlegalforms.com. findlegalforms.com/form/marital-settlement-and-separation-agreements. free-separation-agreement.com. free-separationforms.com. lawdepot.ca. lawdepot.com. lawdepot.com/contracts/separation/index.aspx. lawdepot.com/contracts/separation-agreement. legalformsweb.com. legalseparationagreement.net. legalzprationforms.com. newyorkcourts.gov/court/6jd/forms/sr/forms/legal_separation-pdf. ourhousedivided.com, online separation agreement for unmarried couples. reliabledevorce.ca. rocketlawyer.com, free forms. rocketlawyer.com/landing/marriage+sign separation+sign agreement.aspx. rocketlawyer.com/marriage_separation_agreement-form.aspx. sbhinxlegal.com. standardlegal.com. urgentbusinessforms.com/separation_agreement.asp. uslegalforms.com/divorce/separation agreements. Chapter 3. The Good Divorce. The Good Divorce 1. Divorce is good because it means you weren't meant to be together. A divorce is a blessing in disguise, a chance to get closer to who you are. We live in a capitalist world that has brainwashed many of us to think of relationships like investments. We put so much time and effort into them that we think we should hang on long after the thrill is gone because of this past expenditure of energy, but this is really stupid. Past performance is no indicator of future performance. All that matters is today, right here, right now. This is why I'm so pro-divorce, because I know there are millions of unhappy people in marriages that are hanging on both to hope that it will get better and to honor the past, so to speak. They spent 20 years together. It doesn't matter that the love is gone now. What matters is the 20 years. People think it means something they will lose if they divorce. They spent 20 years invested in it, now they can't cut it loose because they think they're losing a big investment. This is crazy logic. My logic is right here, right now. If it's broken, I might try to fix it once or twice, but after that, I'll throw it away and get a new one. Don't ruin your life staying in a dead relationship from some crazy, irrational reason. Don't use religion as an excuse like the old "I got married for life" bit, and don't use the tradition excuse like "my parents were peasant farmers who stayed together through thick and thin." If you're in an unhappy marriage, cut your losses, get out. It'll be great to get rid of that albatross around your neck, this person you feel nothing for anymore. It's better to be free than to be in a bad marriage. Divorce is often caused by only a few things. One is trying way harder than the other, such that the balance of equitable sharing tips. One or both of the people are self-sufficient and don't really need love, so once the attraction fades, there's nothing worthwhile left. Ultimately, divorce is good because it leads to the truth. People generally marry way too young for all the wrong reasons, like societal pressures to conform. Then 10 to 20 years later, they realize they don't really like each other all that much. To me, it's part of the journey of life, to find your real self. Young people are too quick to marry without finding themselves first, which is a mistake to begin with, and they marry the first person that smiles at them, which is not the same as developing your soul first, then finding a soulmate. Divorce is for the best, a new beginning, time to find yourself and find your true soulmate. Look at all divorces as positive experiences, that people weren't meant for each other and have to move on. There are too many woe is me books out there dealing with divorce. Get over it. We're all ultimately loners anyway, and there are plenty of nice people out there who will make good lovers. It ain't that big a deal. Divorce means the freedom to live your life and a potential dating pool of several million considering the internet. It's just a temporary problem like every other in life. It ain't like you lost your arm or your ability to see. There's way too much psychobabble going on out there about divorce. If someone leaves you, they weren't a soulmate in the first place, so good riddance. You should be happy because you're getting rid of someone you weren't meant to be with. We're a bunch of winners and fools when it comes to love. We fall into half-assed relationships because we're lonely and insecure, and then when they don't work, we fall to pieces when deep inside, we knew we weren't with the right person all along but did it because we hoped for love like we hope for the jackpot when spinning a roulette wheel. Slow down, find yourself, develop your own life, then your soulmate will find you when you're ready. True love is having a good time sharing it with somebody, not two half-empty souls coming together because they hope for some kind of magic that ain't there in the first place. In the short run, divorce has been found to be a drag for most people involved except for the ones that are relieved it's finally over, but some major studies which followed people up to 20 years after divorce found at least half reported they lived better lives by getting the divorce. It's all a matter of perspective. You can either let it destroy you or move on to create a great life for yourself, either alone or in another relationship. Don't get fat and morbid as you age, as so many people do, then wonder why their spouses leave them at middle age. Take care of yourself as you get older. If you don't, then expect a divorce for how attractive you are to your spouse. Don't whine. Beautify your soul and you can do and get whatever you want and need out of this life. Fully 2/3% of women surveyed 2 years after a divorce said they were happier and had no plans to marry again, so there you have it, take it for what it's worth. Divorced women generally deal with it better than divorced men, partially because most women have outside friends while most men don't. Your best bet is to forget about men for a while and get yourself together. Work on earning a living and bettering yourself by exercising and educating yourself about life. Everything you do will be geared for the common goal of conquering your life and then making yourself available to a worthy man/woman. The good divorce too. The good divorce is a quick divorce where you settle the details among yourselves and write up the contract, then agree to commit to raising the children as best as you can together in an informal shared custody manner. Divorce is also good because it frees you from a situation that is not right for you. It's good to fill up your hours not only to better yourself but to keep from wallowing in self-pity. Organize your practical affairs. Try to live as simply as possible. Get rid of all material things that are just dead weight and cluttering up your life. You really don't need much. This is the time to rebuild yourself from the inside out. Live on the poor side of town for a while if you have to. Save some money. You're rebuilding yourself. Be happy for your own sake, that of the people around you and your children. Don't expect anything from friends and you will never be disappointed. Learn to be your own rock. Don't play off friends who are still friends with your ex. You can still be friends with them, just don't use them by putting them in between the split with your ex. Ignore the issue altogether when you're with them. Misery doesn't get company. When you cry alone, meaning that friends who aren't miserable and having a good life don't want to hear your sob stories. They listen to you once, then they don't want to hear about it again. They won't come around until you wise up. Try not to burden or bother your parents unless absolutely necessary. They have their own lives. When looking for a new beau, take your time. Don't go on the rebound right away and be cautious about playing the playboy/playgirl role. Just slow down a bit. It's fine to mess around a bit, but sooner or later, you will probably want a true, serious love, not how many different people you can screw. If you love them and leave them, you will soon have a lot of scorned bastards/bitches on your hands hunting you down. If you go on the party/nightclub scene, watch yourself. Watch the drugs and the strangers who might try to lure you somewhere to mug you or rape you. Offer to babysit the children of friends or take your own children out to places. Children can be the bridge to you meeting a new someone. They're an easy icebreaker. Don't go after married people, especially the spouses of friends. If a married person comes onto you, don't be a home wrecker, and remember that most men ultimately will not leave their wives for the other woman. It's a statistical fact. There are plenty of fish in the ocean. You don't need it. You have a choice between divorced folk and bachelors and bachelorettes. Personally, I prefer bachelorettes, people who have never been married, because they're more pure than divorcees and have no baggage. But then again, you might find a divorcee who's learned her lesson and is ready to be desperately faithful to her new beau. It all comes down to individual preferences and what kind of fish you can attract. Widowers could be good for the elderly person because the separation was not by choice, they have no alimony to pay and they're probably very lonely. Make your home/apartment look like a happy place when they come visit you. Don't drink any more than 5 alcoholic, social drinks. It's uncool. Don't sleep with anyone until after several dates so as not to spoil the fantasy element of the event. Don't use sex as a weapon to snag someone. Snag them with your soul. Don't talk about ex-loves. Don't be desperate. Just be nice. Men getting divorced typically will not talk about their problems to other men, so they wind up feeling lonely and isolated. They keep it all in and end up having a hard time of it. If you need help, consider joining a support group or just getting out of the house and going anywhere but a bar. You will be angry because you will be stuck with a lower standard of living. It's just the way the system is. There are organizations out there dedicated to helping men with divorce cases. Contact your local bar association, divorce court, or legal aid for more information. You might find some books about divorce at #301.428, #306.70-89, #306.89 or HQ814 at your library. Job books are at number 331 at the library, money books at number 332, practical, household books at #640-649 and business books at #650-659. Friends after divorce. Even though it seems counterintuitive to remain friends after a divorce, if you have kids, it's the best way to go. Some would argue that to be friends is to put forth the false hope to the kids that you might get back together, while others say you're mature adults. Children are fairly hip to what's going on these days because of mass media, so it's a good idea for ex-spouses to remain friends and even do things as an ex-family. One ex-family even spends holidays together on trips and camping excursions. The girlfriend of a guy who spends a lot of time with his ex-family says she is constantly worried that he'll leave her and go back to his original family. It's not a bad idea to continue to stay involved with your ex. Sometimes this is the level of intimacy that works. Living together was too close, but now with space, the relationship runs a lot smoother. Some people continue to live in the same house because of financial limitations. Others stay in the relationship but move it to a different level, like the one case I read of 2 separate houses on one property and the one guy who stayed in his RV while his wife lived in the house, and they occasionally got together here and there. I'm not one to judge. If this is another new definition of the evolving family, so be it. It's good for the kids to see both of their parents and see them together now and then without legal custody papers, just being friends. If the parents are not just playing a manipulation game with each other and sincerely enjoy each other's company, then it's good all around. Amicable divorce/collaborative law. You can choose to divorce amicably as a no-fault divorce. Fill out the paperwork and disperse the assets among yourselves, which is the best way to go, often called a summary disposition. You don't need a lawyer, and in many places, don't have to go to court, just file the paperwork. Most areas require that a judge or clerk look over the paperwork to see that it's a fair settlement, and that's it. Even if you go to court, at any time, you can approach the other side and offer a settlement right there and then, which the other can either accept or refuse. Sometimes, in order to keep it simple, the husband might offer a one-time lump sum in order to forget about the hassles of monthly payments for years. It might be worth it for peace of mind. If you're fairly friendly with some disagreements, you could go to divorce mediation, sometimes called collaborative law, where you, the couple, and the attorneys, who have been trained in collaborative law, sit down and hammer out an agreement amongst yourselves without going to divorce court. The disadvantages are that one side might try to bully the other side. If it doesn't work, you will probably have to hire new attorneys for the divorce trial. In mediation, the mediator is a neutral third party. In collaborative law, it's just the two sides talking it out with no third party present. Ask your local court if they have collaborative law in divorce proceedings. Mediation and collaborative law are generally agreed to by both sides together. In arbitration, the arbitrator makes the final decision just like a judge does. More specifically, this option to divorce court, the divorce mediation, is less informal than a court where a neutral third party sits down with the former couple and tries to hash out an equitable division of property, custody of children, etc. The mediator could be a lawyer or a professional in the social work/counseling field. In some states where child custody is involved, divorce mediation is mandatory. Sometimes the divorce mediation is just part of the divorce process where the couple tries to resolve the issues, then goes back to their lawyers and then back to court. However, divorce mediation can be used to reach an agreement which could be accepted directly by the court. It is much cheaper than using lawyers, and lawyers don't particularly like it. Divorce mediation has other critics too. Some women's groups don't like it because they feel that many naive or otherwise abused women may be intimidated by the process and give in too easily. Also, since women are presumably the gentler sex, the general consensus is that they give in more to their ex-husbands just to smooth it all over and get it over with. In some states, divorce mediators are licensed, so you can go to the licensing board to get a list of them. Some lawyers are divorce mediators. You can look up divorce mediation or mediation in the phone book to find practicing mediators. In some states, divorce mediators do not have to be licensed, so make sure you get the service before you pay out too much money. Finally, for a list of divorce mediators in your area, you could contact the amicable divorce websites: collaborativepractice.com, peoplesalternative.com, Alternative Divorce, New York; divorcemediatonfl.com, californiadivorce.info, allah.com/article/family/divorce, allah.com/article/family/divorce/article38.asp, ourdivorceagreement.com, compassionatedivorceam.com, 877-666-9601, nalo.com, divorcebroker.com, totaldivorce.com, divorcemediatonfl.com, foraccord.com/divorce.html, mediation, 501c3 nonprofit.com/divorce.htm, aamlnocal.com/links.htm, Alternative Divorce, North California, agvaconsulting.com, Duluth Family Mediation, Minnesota, Arizona-divorce-law.com, attorneyalternative.org, attorneyalternative.org/divorce.htm, bivmc.com/divorce.shtml, Kingwood, Texas, blanchardlaw.com, Montgomery, Al. blogs.kansascity.com/2006/01/an_amicable_divorce, body-law.com, Illinois, California divorceam.tionservices.com, cmdronline.com/divorce.htm, divorce mediation, Wellesley, coastalcourtservices.com, Florida, Colorado divorceam.ation.com/mediation, content.firmsite.findlaw.com/fam-informal.htm, Minneapolis, Minnesota Family Law Attorney, Alternative Divorce, courts.state.ny.us/litigants/divorce/index.shtml, ctdivorce.com, Connecticut, davidcoltett.com/archive/2006/78, dcsmethpllc.com, divmedgroup.com, Divorce Mediation Group, The Civil Alternative, Springfield and Northampton, divorce-articles.com/amicable-divorce.shtml, divorce-attorney-schoolisl.com, divorce.city-lawyer.info/amicable.html, divorcehq.com/articles/uglydivorce.html, mediation, an alternative to the ugly divorce, divorceinfo.com, divorce-lawyers-oakbrook.law.com, Chicago, DivorceMediationsolutions.com. DivorceNet.com/state/California/peeling_the_orange. DivorceNet.com/state/New_York/collaborative_law. DivorceOnline.com. DivorcePeacemaker.com. DivorceProblems.com. DivorcesHoppa.com, Portland, or DivorcesOurce.com. DivorcesOurce.com/ca/index.shtml, California. DivorcesUpport.com/divorce/amicable-divorce-21. DuboisLaw.net/amicable_divorces.html, Seattle, WA. ehow.com/how_1346449_amicable-divorce.html. elsa.com/archive/category/divorce. equalityinmarriage.org/wdavoid.html. equalityinmarriage.org/wdprep.html. family.findlaw.com/divorce/divorce-process/divorce. fastdivorces.info. fla-legaladvice.com/prdivorce.shtml, Florida. Galleon.com. GregEGenheimer.com, Austin, TX. haskamot.com/english.html. HuntsvilleFamilyLaw.com, Huntsville, Al. iaconolaw.com, Westchester County. jacobslaw.com, New Haven, CT. KarenKane.com, Nashville, TN. KesslerMediation.com/overview.shtml, Chicago, Illinois. Divorce mediation. KSL.com/?NID=148 SID=1345583, Utah. Divorce is always bad for kids. Lazardev.com/divorce.htm, divorce negotiations. LebanonFamilyLaw.com/familylaw.shtml. Lifehacker.com/software/DIY. lutzlaw.com/cm/fsdp/practice center/family-law, Seattle, WA. MandelaWFirm.com/cm/custom/tos-. Newsletter.asp, New York divorce mediation attorney. marketcenter.findlaw.com/scripts/profiles/1399982.html, alternative divorce mediation, see GERD, New Jersey. McNeillawoffice.com, Hillsborough. mediationdivorce.net. Michigan-divorce-attorney.com. MickeyFernandez.com, alternative mediation services of Santa Rosa, Sonoma County. MulfordMediation.com, Warrenton, Virginia. NCMC-mediate.org, Northern California. NicholsLaw.com, Texas. NotaR-ramillar.com/notaR/notaR_info.divorce. NiceDivorceMediation.com. ajar.com/view_2727.htm. pacoda.com/secure/data/231/chapter1920/chap19, Pennsylvania. preciousheart.net/main_archive/divorce_archives. QualityBooks.com, No Fault Divorce Kit. QuickDivorces.net. RaleighLawFirm.com. RHRabarLaw.com, Detroit. RJTenant.com, RJTenant.lawoffice.com, San Jose. SchoolISLawFirm.com, Nassau County. ScottThorenSDEinLaw.com, Vancouver, WA. SmartLegalInfo.com. SSO.com/cm/fsdp/practice center/family-law. Stoller-law.com, Los Angeles. TampasQ.com, Tampa, FL. ThemarcaseLawFirm.com. ThePeoplesAlternative.com, New York Divorce. utexas.edu/features/2006/divorce. ValerieCanous.com, Boca Raton, FL. Walling-Berg.com, Minneapolis. washlaw.edu/subject/dispute.resolution.html. wbdlaw.com, Minneapolis, MN. witten-law.com, Austin, TX. yourfriendlydivorce.com, New Jersey, New York. acjnet.org, Access to Justice Network. afccnet.org, Association of Family and Conciliatory Courts. Collaborative divorce.homestead.com/faqs.html. divorceasfriends.com. mediated-divorce.com. mediation.com. mediatorindex.com. mediationworks.com, Mediation Training Institute. nicar.ca, Network, Interaction for Conflict Resolution Canada. nocourt.org/principles.htm, Collaborative Law. smartdivorce.com. sbidr.org, Society of Professionals in Dispute Resolution. theinvolvedfather.com/arts, Collaborative Family Law. Academy of Family Mediators. 4, Militia Drive. Lexington, Massachusetts, 02173. 617-674-2663. Fax, 617-674-2690. 800-292-4236. Mediators.org. Makes referrals to divorce mediators. American Arbitration Association. 335 Madison Avenue. NYC 10017 to 4605. 212-716-5870. Fax, 212-716-5905. 800-778-7879. Fax, 877-INFO AAA. ADR.org. National headquarters of this nonprofit organization with 37 regional offices. Divorce mediators available. Association of Conflict Resolution. 1527 New Hampshire Avenue. NW. Washington, D.C. 20036. 202-667-9700. Mediate.com. Association of Family and Conciliation Courts. 6515 Grand Teton Plaza. Number 1210. Madison, Wisconsin 53719. 608-664-3750. afccnet.org. Constructive Resolution of Family Disputes. Center for Dispute Settlement. 1666 Connecticut Avenue. NW. Number 501. Washington, D.C. 20009. 202-265-9572. Society of Professionals Dispute Resolution. 815 15th Street Northwest. Number 530. Washington, D.C. 20005. 202-783-7277. There is no such thing as an amicable divorce. Divorce court is structured to be adversarial. The judge has to disperse assets. The lawyers on each side want to get the most for their client and themselves. No matter how good the marriage was, the lawyer immediately starts to work on the spouse to be practical and get what they can for themselves because they say the other side is doing the same thing. If you invest time and effort in a marriage, there has to be an equitable disbursement of assets plus equitable custody of children and pets. It's hard to be fair. Each side has different expectations. It's cool to act like you're not materialistic, but when we are talking about your financial security, a lot of money plus a spouse trying to keep as much he or she can, especially if they cheated and already have a new beau, you deserve a fair settlement. Never agree to anything without your lawyer present. Don't assume your former spouse is still a good person. It's now a fight for money. Be calm. Don't nitpick. Worry about the big assets like the house and car, not household junk. Don't sign anything without understanding it. Don't demand too much. It makes you look greedy. Be reasonable. A lot of husbands readily give up the house. That's a good sign. Don't be ruled by emotions. Be ruled by making a good financial settlement. Tell your lawyer the truth. He or she are already scumbags by virtue of the profession. They won't judge you. They want the best deal for you but do not want to be embarrassed in divorce court by your lies. Don't be emotional in court. The judge is thinking dollars and cents, not who is morally superior. Do some kind of professional records check on your spouse's accounts. If it is a lot of money, hire a private detective to seek out your ex-spouse's assets. The lawyer is not a financial advisor. Read my money book or go to number 332 at the library. Do all required paperwork. Be on time for court and appointments. Don't make ridiculous demands for child support like manicure sessions for the kid. Do your own research on your ex-spouse's assets by looking through his computer and cell phone history if possible. If there was GPS on his cell phone that you had access to, see if he visited any new banks or credit unions. Even when you're married, think about how to be financially independent. Get a skill. Stay away from vengeful, scorned divorced friends. They poison your attitudes even worse than they are now. Be cool. Even if you're angry, society rewards only the people who don't show it. Good divorce websites. DisgruntledHousewives.com, wives talk about their dud husbands. GentleHints.com. 3stepdivorcestore.com. 3stepdivorcestore.com/browse products/the-good-divorce.html. adivorcefast.com. bhg.com/lhj/story.jhtml, The Good Divorce. Booksfree.com/These Van Golden Arule of Good Divorce. businessweek.com/magazine/content/05_44/B3957128.htm, Work together after you divorce. coloradoteam.ation.com/resources/gooddivorce.htm. constancearons.com/thegooddivorce.htm. divorceadvice-center.com/advantages-to-doing-or-own-divorce.html. divorcecycle.com. divorcehelp.com/rr/rr01.html, A good divorce is an actively mutual enterprise. divorcezourc.com/webcart/gooddivorce.html. ezinarticles.com. free-parenting-tips.net/article/the-myth-of-the-good-147772.html. good-divorce.co.il. gooddivorceebooks.com. hansen-law.com/article4.html, The Good Divorce. kaplandivorce.com/good_divorce.pdf. mydivorcedocuments.com, Divorce Kit, $25. parentkidsright.com/pt-gooddivorce.html.